Hi everybody, had something of a disaster with this yesterday, as in it recorded but the sound was no good, as has happened once before. I can't work out why other tests seem to work well, but that's my problem rather than yours. Okay, we start with a bit of fancy stuff, bit of Shakespeare. He who steals my purse steals trash, but he who steals my good name steals all that I have. In other words, you can always replace money, but you can never win a good name back once you've lost it. Fair point from Othello. Oh, Will knew a thing or two. Moving swiftly on. What is defamation, which is what we're about today? Defamation is taking someone's name in vain. We'll look at the actual version. It's saying stuff about them that would belittle them in front of others. We'll look at the definition as we go through. There is actually no comprehensive definition of defamation. One that we use and one of the best available is the publication of material. Defamation is the publication of material that lowers someone in the eyes of right-thinking members of society. In other words, the right-thinking members was once, by a judge in the 1930s, I think, thought to be an example of a right-thinking member of society was the man or woman on the top deck of the Clapham omnibus. Tells you a bit about society and a bit about the way they were thought to be one way of right thinking. Of course, we think much differently now, but you get the idea. Defamation and libel, connected, part of the same thing, sometimes a bit confusing in definition terms. So a libel is a published false statement that is damaging to a person's reputation, a written defamation. For example, he was found guilty of a libel on a Liverpool inspector of taxes. You defame someone by publishing a libel, as in example would be the jury found he was libelled by a newspaper. Subtle difference. It'll become more obvious as we go through. Don't fret about it just now. We'll keep going through, and it should come more clearly as we go on. Libel or slander. The difference being, if a defamatory statement is written or in any permanent form, as in a photograph or broadcast, it is known as libel. If it is in spoken or any other transient form, it is slander. So libels are written, slander is spoken, transiently. Words are defamatory if they tend to, these are good definitions here, you need to remember these. Words are defamatory if they tend to expose an individual to hatred, ridicule or contempt, cause an individual to be shunned or avoided, lower an individual in the estimation of right-thinking members of society, there's that bloke on the bus again, disparage an individual in his or her business, trade, office or profession. Disparage being to call into question or to reduce their reputation. So there are four good reasons, four good explanations of what defamatory has to do to be defamatory. This is an example of a fellow called Ian Overton, the former editor of the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, ought to have known better, you might say, resigned after tweeting a now deleted tweet before the failed Newsnight expose. Newsnight were going to expose a huge establishment paedophile ring, and they all but got on air with it, but pulled it at the last minute. But people speculated on who these people were involved in this paedophile ring. One of them was named by several people. I think this fellow was one of them. Alan Davis was asking questions, the comedian and QI contestant, asking about who they were. One person there, Tonic Z, named Lord McAlpine, and then Sally Bercow, wife of Speaker John Bercow, former Speaker John Bercow, asked why is Lord McAlpine trending innocent face, bit of a tease there. And then somebody obviously replied to her, more than some, a lot got into her why she was doing that. I asked why McAlpine was trending and added innocent face. No accusation whatsoever, mischievous but not libelous. If I get sued, so be it. Well, it was it. She did get sued and she was fined and had to pay damages. So Lord McAlpine v Sally Bercow. Bercow apologised for irresponsible use of Twitter, agreed to pay undisclosed damages, undertook never to repeat allegations about him, and withdrew the one she did make unreservedly. Burkow accepted an offer to settle after a ruling that her tweet was highly defamatory. So despite her earlier brave talk, she was nicked and had to pay quite a heavy price for it. Be careful, don't take chances, is the motto there. Again, more defamatory stuff. This is Andrew Mitchell, the MP. You may remember an incident became to be known as Plebgate, where Andrew Mitchell was on his way from or to 10 Downing Street when he said to a security policeman on the door or on the gate at the end of the street, "Best you learn your place, you don't run this government, you're plebs," all words to that effect. I'll let you fill in the gaps there. This went on for days in the papers. In the end, he had to apologise, and that apology cost him £80,000 from damages. The policeman, Toby Rowland, got the damages. It was a huge story over weeks, and it was definitely thought to be libelous in the end, and the action was taken against the former government chief whip, who I think has since disappeared sort of without trace. Function of the law. The law of defamation tries to strike a balance between an individual's right to protect his or her reputation and freedom of speech to expose wrongdoing and, as a result, damage an individual's reputation. So balancing the right of free speech for the right of the individual to be not disparaged in her character or business. Sort of a balance we strike in many areas of the law. For an action of defamation to be successful, the claimant must prove three things about the alleged libel. It seems fairly obvious, but they need spelling out because the law's a bit like that. A, that the statement is defamatory. B, that it refers to them, to that person who wants to make the claim. And C, that it's been published. So you need to prove all those things. The last one is probably the most easy to do. The other two need to be done. The first one, of course, is where most of the conjecture lies. Under the 2013 Act, someone bringing a libel action will now have to prove that the statement caused or was likely to cause serious harm to their reputation. Now you can imagine that the word serious in that sentence is the one that causes the most debate, because you can no doubt prove some harm or a perceived harm, but for it to be serious is quite a specific and difficult to prove, I guess, that something was serious. What does serious mean? You have to define that, and that's where the argument would lie. In terms of identification, the claimant must prove that the libel refers to him or her. It is not necessary that all the world should understand the libel. It is sufficient if those who know the claimant can make out that he is the person meant. So it doesn't have to be obvious to everyone, but it has to be clear to people in his circle or her circle that libel refers to them. So, the thing to remember in this case, we'll have an example a bit later on, it's far more damaging not to name the person you are defaming. Be as specific as possible, especially in court reporting. Why would that be? Well, because, as we're going to see later, there may be more than one person of the same name, and the more circumspect you are about describing that person, the more chance there is of somebody else with the same name in the same situation believing that that libel is about them. So instead of having one libel case, you may have 3 or 4. Example to follow. Here it is. Daily Express libel case. Daily Express was sued over a story which stated Harold Newstead, a 30-year-old Camberwell man, had been sent to prison for 9 months for bigamy. No safety generalisations. In this particular case, they've not said his address, and the libel was the Daily Express was sued because another Harold Newstead, 30-year-old Camberwell man, or around that age, certainly Harold Newstead from Camberwell, got in touch with them to say, "I'm no bigamist, where's the cash?" So, who can be sued? The writer of the writer of the statement, which includes any of those online forms of expression there, not just a TV, newspaper, it could be any of those things, any social media. The editor is the person who decided to publish it, if it's not just a social media, or if it's a group social media thing. The website operator, and posters of comments online. Again, it includes those and other social media avenues. Jack Monroe wins Twitter libel case against Katie Hopkins. You might recognise Katie on the right there, that's Jack on the left. Food writer and campaigner won £24,000 from the Mail Online columnist in tweets about Katie Hopkins maintained that Jack Monroe would probably be glad if a war memorial would approve that a war memorial being defaced as it was during the anti-austerity demonstration in Whitehall. She was assuming that Katie Hopkins was assuming that because Jack Monroe is opposed to she's opposed to austerity, she's opposed to the establishment generally, and would be okay about a war memorial being defaced. Not the case in this one. She lost. She took it to court. It was taken to court. Hopkins lost, and Ms. Monroe won £24,000. After which she said, "I'm going to get horribly drunk." Well, there you go. You can understand that, I suppose. But she won, and that's the dangers of assuming and of trying to pin people down on something really you don't know anything about. So be careful. Defamation Act 2013. The biggest shake-up of the libel law for decades, reflects internet changes, makes life easier for web editors. Web editors can take down things on request, and the strength of a libel case is lost if people respond quickly and effectively. It favours free speech and the right to publish, which is good for journalists, makes it harder for people to win a libel action. But it only applies in England and Wales, and only applies to articles published after autumn 2013. Anything before that date is judged on the old version of the law. Internet publications and defamation. The Act of 2013 gives the new law gives claimants 1 year to sue from a date on which an article is published, but only covers the original author of the statement. It doesn't protect someone who publishes the original libel for the first time elsewhere. So if somebody picks it up online and puts it out again, then they are just as liable as the original. No, they're not, the opposite way, they're not liable. Makes website operators legally responsible only for moderated comments. If your story is commented on by members of the public and is not something you moderate, then you're not responsible. Main defences under the 2013 Act: truth, as in if you're telling the truth about someone, it's a good defence. Katie Hopkins wasn't telling the truth about Jack Monroe, so she couldn't have that defence. She was making it up. She didn't know. She assumed. Honest opinion. Would that be an honest opinion? No, she's saying that she would do something. An honest opinion was that she's a charlatan and a fake. That might be an honest opinion. But to say she would be pleased that a war memorial would be defaced isn't an opinion. Privilege. We know about absolute privilege from court cases. Qualified privilege from other meetings. We know what they are and what they depend on, especially the former. We'll go into that later again. Also, public interest defence. If you're speaking out in the public interest, then something that may be defamatory is necessary for justice to be done in this case, in that particular case. Defences for privilege. Circumstances where freedom of speech is considered more important than protection of reputation. As we said, if it's in the public interest, freedom of speech is thought to be the main thing rather than the way that individual is seen. These occasions are said to be privileged. Absolute privilege protects journalists in court cases. I'm going to go to those three. Well worn, should be stamped in your mind now. To qualify for absolute privilege, court reports must be fair, accurate, and contemporaneous. Contemporaneous being the one you'll always remember. So this is a past exam question which puts you in the hot seat as regards your knowledge of libel. An angry man rings your media organisation's newsroom. I'm a motor dealer, he says, and two major clients say they're not doing business with me anymore because they read on your website that I'm a convicted paedophile. I've never been in court. I'm definitely not a paedophile. I'm going to sue you. The man tells you that he's John Jones, 54 of Main Road, Middletown. In a hurry, this morning you wrote a website story in which has been published that says motor dealer John Jones from Middletown has been found guilty in Crown Court sexually assaulting a child. You now realise that John Jones, who was in court, was described as 29, which you failed to include in the report, and was a motor mechanic and not a motor dealer. Main Road is 1.5 miles long. What is the legal issue that this man is threatening to sue over? What defence normally applies to media reports of court cases? Explain with reference to its criteria whether it would be successful as regards the published website report. So what's the legal issue this man is threatening to sue over? The legal issue is that people would think that he is a paedophile, as is obviously evidenced by his phone calls, when you didn't put in the full details of the man who actually was found guilty, the other John Jones. The motor dealer, motor mechanic similarity is unfortunate, but it also makes your case more difficult to explain. What defence normally applies to media reports of court cases? Privilege. To qualify for privilege, what do you need to have? Your report needs to be fair, accurate, contemporaneous. In this case, it isn't. It's wrong. You made a mistake. You've lost your defence. Explain with reference to its criteria whether it will be successful with regards to the published remarks. Well, clearly it wouldn't, would it? Because you made the mistake. You've libelled the man by not identifying fully the man who was guilty. You've allowed people to believe that the man who wasn't guilty, in fact, had done something wrong. So you've got not got a leg to stand on, as they say. If for next time, or if as part of your preparation for the test, you need to do some more reading, you should do some more reading. There are the places to go for it. There will be a test, an online test put up next to this on the Blackboard site, 10 questions to ask relating to these slides. If you need anything else, Arlene and I are taking emails or phone calls, whatever you want to get in touch with us to help you through the next few weeks without face-to-face teaching or excuse me, tutorials. That's all. Good luck. See you next time.